Everyone in the gym froze the moment Anna stepped into the boxing ring. She wasn't a fighter, at least. That's what everyone thought. Just a quiet, simple woman who worked the front desk, handed out towels, and wiped sweat off benches. When no one was watching, but tonight, the crowd was watching her. And no one could look away. The heavyweight champion, Marcus the Mauler Dean. All 220 pounds of muscle and attitude, was grinning like he'd already won. For years, Marcus had ruled the local boxing circuit, knocking out anyone who dared to stand across from him. He never expected his next opponent to be a woman who'd never thrown a punch in public. But here she was, barefoot, hair tied back, eyes locked on his like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. Nobody knew how Anna ended up in the ring that night. Some say she was forced by a cruel bet. Others whisper that Marcus mocked her brother or her son, pushing her too far. All that mattered now was that the bell was about to ring, and the whole gym smelled like sweat and fear. People pressed against the ropes, phones out, ready to film what they thought would be a joke, a simple woman humiliated by a brute twice. Her size? But if they'd looked closely, they'd have seen something different in her calm face. In the way her fists clenched tight by her side, no one could have guessed that in just a few seconds, Anna's single punch would echo through the gym louder than any cheer Marcus ever earned. And when her knuckles connected, they wouldn't just break teeth, they'd shatter every lie told about what a simple woman could or couldn't do. And when the bell rang, nobody at Iron Fist Gym could believe what they were seeing. Maria, the woman who cleaned the locker rooms and handed out water bottles, was now standing barefoot in the middle of the boxing ring. She wasn't wearing fancy gloves or a shiny robe, just old workout clothes and a look in her eyes that made even the loudest guys go silent. Across from her stood Rico, the Bull Santos, the undefeated 220-pound local champion, famous for breaking ribs and egos. Nobody had ever seen him worried. Tonight, he should have been laughing. But for some reason, he wasn't. Nobody really knew how it happened. Some say Maria was forced into the boxing ring after Rico made fun of her brother during training. Others say she stepped up herself when Rico pushed things too far. Whatever the truth was, everyone crowded around the ring, holding their breath and their phones. They were sure they'd witnessed the biggest embarrassment of Maria's life. A simple woman facing a monster trained to crush bones for a living. But there was something about the way Maria stood there, fists clenched, breathing slow, eyes locked on Rico like she'd been waiting for this chance. She didn't flinch when he cracked his knuckles. She didn't back away when the bell was about to ring. For a moment, even Rico's smile slipped. Maybe he felt it too, that this fight wouldn't go the way everyone thought. Some people say one punch can change everything. Tonight, it did. In 1 second, the so-called simple woman would show everyone in that sweaty, noisy gym that true power doesn't always come from muscles. Sometimes comes from something deeper. Something you can't see until it hits you right in the mouth. And when that bell finally rang. When the bell rang, the crowd leaned forward so close their breath almost touched the ropes. Rico stepped in first, bouncing on his heavy feet, throwing quick jabs to test her. He expected Maria to flinch, maybe to cover her face and cower in the corner, but she didn't. She kept her eyes on his chest, reading him like an open book. Every punch he threw, she dodged with just a small twist of her shoulder, a calm step to the side. The champion was landing nothing but air, and that made the whispers grow louder around the ring, in the back. Maria's younger brother, Luis, watched with his fists pressed tight against his mouth. He knew the real story, how Maria learned to fight long before she ever stepped into this sweaty gym. Back when they were kids, their father taught her to throw a punch to protect them from bullies in their rough neighborhood. Nobody ever believed him when he told them that his quiet sister could break boards with her bare hands. Luis prayed. She still remembered how Rico's trainer, Big Tony, barked orders from his corner, his voice cutting through the noise. He'd spent years shaping Rico into a beast, but now even he was wondering if they'd underestimated the simple woman. Every time Rico swung, Maria's feet moved like she'd danced on this canvas 1,000 times before. Some of the other boxers watched with wide eyes. Phones pointed at the ring, hoping to catch that moment when the mighty champion knocked out. The cleaning lady, but every second that passed without Maria falling made their hands shake. What if the joke was on them? Rico's punches grew wilder. His pride was on the line, and the crowd could smell it. Maria stayed silent, breathing slow, waiting for her moment. One good opening was all she needed. But would it come before Rico's? Anger turned into something she couldn't dodge. The whole gym seemed to hold its breath as Rico pulled back for his biggest swing yet. And Maria's eyes, they didn't blink. They narrowed. She saw something nobody else did. And just like that, everything shifted. Rico's fist sliced through the air so close Maria could feel the wind on her cheek. He grunted, sweat flying off his forehead as the crowd roared for him to finish it. But Maria didn't move back. She stepped in closer, almost chest to chest with the 220-pound champion. For a heartbeat, it looked like she'd lost her mind, standing toe-to-toe with a man twice her size. Arms low, eyes locked on his dot, Luis could hardly breathe from the sidelines. He wanted to yell for her to get out of there, to duck, to run. Anything but stand so close to Rico's rage. But he knew his sister better than that. If Maria was staying in the line of fire, she had a reason. She was watching, reading every twitch in Rico's shoulders, every flicker of his eyes. She wasn't scared. She was ready. Rico barked a laugh that didn't sound like a laugh at all. It was more like a warning growl from a cornered dog. He slammed his gloves together, trying to shake off the embarrassment, the confusion eating at him while the simple woman stared straight through his muscles. He raised his fists high, drawing in a deep breath, planning to crush her with one massive uppercut. The people crowded near the ropes could feel the floor vibrate as Rico stepped forward. They leaned in, phones recording, hoping to catch that single punch that would prove this was all just a crazy mistake, that Maria never belonged in a boxing ring. But as Rico's fist came down like a hammer, Maria shifted her feet. She saw the gap, the tiny space nobody else noticed. Her knuckles tensed, breath steady, eyes never leaving his. The whole gym fell silent for a split second, like the world itself was waiting to see if the simple woman's secret would finally explode in the next heartbeat. Rico's swing cut the air. Maria's shoulder turned, and everything balanced on the edge of that one perfect moment, the moment her fist might finally fly. Just as Maria's shoulder dipped and her fist tightened, something unexpected broke through the heavy air of the gym, a voice sharp and desperate, cutting through the tension like a knife. Luis pushed through the crowd, shouting her name. For a split second, Maria's eyes flicked toward her brother at the ropes, breaking her focus. Rico saw it. He sneered, sensing his chance. Luis hadn't meant to distract her. He just couldn't hold it in any longer. He'd spotted something no one else did. Behind Rico, Big Tony had stepped forward, yelling at the referee, waving a hand like he was trying to call the fight off. But why? Why stop it now when Rico was about to land the hit everyone came for? Luis saw it first, Rico's glove. The tape around his wrist was loose, peeling back to reveal something shiny under the leather. Luis had heard rumors that Rico sometimes hid metal strips in his wraps for street fights. Tay never believed it until now. He tried to scream a warning to Maria, but her eyes darted back to Rico just as the champion's massive fist came crashing down. Instead of landing clean, Rico's punch grazed her shoulder. A glancing blow, but it was enough to send a shock through her bones. Maria staggered back, boots sliding on sweat-slick canvas. her balance tilting for the first time. The crowd gasped, half in thrill, half in sudden fear that the simple woman was about to fall after all. Rico didn't pause. He smelled blood now, real or not, and his smirk returned as he advanced, gloves up, ready to swing again before Maria could find her feet. Luis banged on the ropes, screaming for someone to check Rico's gloves, but nobody moved. They were too caught up in the fight. Too hungry to see how it would end, Maria steadied herself, eyes narrowing again. This wasn't just about pride anymore. Now she knew the truth. The champion everyone feared wasn't just big and strong. He was dirty. And that made her fists clench tighter than ever. The next punch would have to be perfect. But with Rico lunging for her and the crowd chanting his name, Maria would have to dig deeper than she ever had before. The whole gym could feel it. The simple woman's real fight was just about to begin. As Rico knelt on the canvas, blinking through the taste of blood and shame, the crowd's cheers turned into stunned silence again. Nobody could look away from Maria standing over him, breathing steady, her knuckles red, but her eyes calm. It should have ended there, the simple woman defeating the 220-pound champion with one clean punch. But Maria saw something in Rico's eyes that froze her in place. Rico wasn't done. Maybe it was pride, maybe fear of losing his name, but